watching this video, then you've already read through the algebra review section that I've given you to show how we can solve for x, how we manipulate both sides of an equation in order to solve for that particular variable. And so in this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to do exactly the same thing with physics formulas that may look a little different to you, but we can use exactly the same procedures. Let's start with a fairly simple one, and then we'll work our way up to some that might be a little more challenging. Let's start with the relationship, the formula that shows the relationship between force, mass, and acceleration. And that particular formula says that, what is this? Let's get rid of that. That force is equal to mass times acceleration. Okay, this is great. If I know the mass and I know the acceleration, then I can find the force by multiplying those two together. But what if I don't know the mass? What if I want to find the mass? How am I going to use the acceleration and the force to find the mass? Well, I have to rearrange this equation. Now, when you did the algebra problem, you saw that when we multiplied two numbers together, we could do the opposite. We could divide and then eliminate one of those from one side of the equation, but then we have to do the same on the other side of the equation. And it's no different here. So we want to solve for mass, so we're going to leave that one. We're going to divide both sides by acceleration. And that gives us a new formula, because these are going to cancel just like the numbers did, where mass is equal to force divided by acceleration. We could do exactly the same thing if we wanted to solve for acceleration. But in that case, we would divide both sides by mass. So acceleration is equal to force divided by mass. So this one is a pretty straightforward, simple one. It's one that you will see a lot in physics class this year. Let's look at one that might be a little more challenging. This one says that t, which stands for the period of a pendulum, and the period of a pendulum is the amount of time it takes for a pendulum to complete one cycle. It goes back to its starting place. And so the period of a pendulum is equal to 2 times pi times the square root of the length divided by the acceleration due to gravity. Eesh. That one is a little bit scary looking. Lots of math going on there. And what if I know the period of the pendulum? I know how long it takes for that pendulum to go from one side to the other, but I want to know how long the pendulum is. Well, the L here stands for length. And so I'm going to have to rearrange this formula to solve for the length if I know the period and I know the acceleration due to gravity. Well, how would we solve a problem like this? How would we isolate L, the length, on one side of the equation? Well, the first thing I want to get rid of is that square root sign. That thing looks a little scary to me, and so I'm going to do the opposite of take the square root. And what is that? Square it, right? So we're going to square both sides of this equation. So t squared is equal to, and then we have to square everything on this side. So we're going to square everything over here. Okay, so 2 times 2 is going to be 4. And then pi squared. And then the square root disappears as if by magic because we're squaring that. And so that gives us our length over our acceleration due to gravity. Well, that's looking a whole lot better, but it still doesn't isolate the length. So now we want to get rid of this fraction. So we are going to multiply by the reciprocal. Now, L over G is the same thing as L times 1 over G. And so we're going to multiply by the reciprocal, which would be G over 1. And we're going to do that on both sides. It's the same as just saying G. But here you can see that this is going to cancel. And then we do the same on this side. So now we've got, and it doesn't matter when we're multiplying what order we put these in. So t squared g, just looks a little neater, is equal to 4, come here pen, 4 pi squared L. Oh wow, this is looking a lot more like something I can deal with. Now, 4 times pi squared times L. Anytime we're multiplying all these things together, all I've got to do is divide by those things that I don't want, just like we did with the one with force and mass and acceleration. And I can cancel that, but I have to do the same thing on this side. And when I write my equations, I just think it looks neater to put whatever I'm solving for on the left-hand side. So I'm just going to flip everything around, and my new equation for length is equal to t squared times g, all divided by 4 pi squared. So if I know the period of a pendulum and the acceleration due to gravity, then I can find the length of that pendulum. And that's how you do it. Now it's your turn. In the Google site, you will find a link to some problems so that you can have some experience at solving these equations and rearranging these equations on your own. Good luck.